the body is innocent. So it's so interesting. Most of our religious conditioning really didn't tell us that, did it? Pure, but it holds memories, and from our life and others, it holds traumas. But the way I sometimes visualize the body is like a little puppy. I often think of the body as falling in the limbic dimension, because oftentimes our bodies are in the game of trying to keep us safe and survive and just find some pleasure and avoid some pain. I don't think that's their only job. In fact, the body can connect to Gaia, the earth, and to the innate intelligence that's held there. But so often, you know, we're caught up in our survival strategy for many different reasons. But when you think of the limbic brain, when you think of the middle brain, sometimes they call it the puppy brain, because it's involved in connection, but it's kind of like, how do I stay safe in connection, right? How do I maintain connection? It's different than love and compassion. It's a different state. Well, so I think about the body as like a sweet little puppy that may have been through something really tough. It may be afraid. It may have misunderstandings. It may not behave perfectly, but it only responds to love, tenderness, and play, period. Watch this over and over again with yourself. It doesn't mean not boundaries. We do respond to boundaries, but only loving, clear, tender boundaries, right? So I want to look at how we can begin to speak to the body. Okay, two things. Okay, great. The language of the body. One of the things they found in trauma research a while back is that part of the problem is trauma is not coded in a linear, logical way. Trauma, therefore, is often not able to be healed by words alone. We could say trauma is not able to be healed by the left brain alone. The left brain is our great ally. It's part of what's giving us this understanding, this perspective, this truth. But alone, it's not able to heal trauma. And so too often, as we're trying to develop a loving relationship with ourselves or meet ourselves, we are innocently, mistakenly using the language of logic. It doesn't work. Especially, it doesn't work if we are in a hijacked state, okay? So once our body is in a state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and actually, it's fair to say that that's quite a common thing on a relative spectrum. Once that's happening, we can't actually, hold on, lost my train of thought, because I switched screen. I wanted to see new faces so I could say hi and then write out. Hold on, I'm gonna be back in 1 second. Okay, gotcha. Once we're in that state, we can't speak logic. We can't speak logic. So think about it like this. Even with self-compassion work, one of the things that people might do is, let's say, I don't know, let's say you just taught a class on meeting yourself with love, and you end the class and you thought, I did a freaking crappy job. Oh my God, I should have said this. I messed up. And then you say, oh my God, okay, but I remember these great teachings. I should meet myself with love. I got to have a good, loving relationship with myself. Let me get to that. So then you speak to yourself from the level of logic and you say, you know, Vanessa, though, I mean, you did your best and it was free. I'm sure it's fine. No one cares. La, 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 la. You know, it doesn't change anything. This is why sometimes you'll notice if you're talking to friends who are in a state where they're in a state of emotion and you try to offer them really logical advice, it doesn't land. You'll hear a lot of but. And you'll see that in yourself. People will be talking to you, they'll be saying something really logical, really practical, really sound advice, and you're like, but, and nothing's shifting. So we have to learn to speak the language of the body. Logic isn't gonna cut it here. Okay, I have a favorite term for this because I'm a geek and I really like terms, but it is the language of living knowledge. Ooh, and I like that because the body's alive and it's experiential, but it's wise. So we can't speak logic. What's the language of the body? I'll throw out some examples. Frequency, vibrations, sensations, emotions, images, visualization, dreams, imagination. These are languages of the body. If anyone studied Jungian stuff, he always said, like, this is how you got to access the unconscious, is coming through these languages of the body. So today we're going to talk about using inner child practices to speak the language of the body. Now, inner child practices, gosh, as I started to like write out my notes for you guys, which was really just me collecting my thoughts in one place, I realized, holy cannoli, like you could go a long time and still talk about inner child practices. It's really deep work, and it's so profound, and it is life-changing, energy-changing, and it can shift you into the states of self-love and self-compassion that I'm sure many of you are looking for. So one way that we can begin to create a new healing experience for ourselves is begin to see the body like an innocent child. The body's holding the memories. Many people, you guys have spoken a lot, Kelly, he'll talk about subpersonalities. So one way of talking about the inner child, internal family systems. It's another school of psychology that talks about the inner child. Really, when we learn to meet our inner child, what's happening is we start to develop a relationship with the innocence inside of us. But the innocence inside of us, the tender parts of us that have been harmed, confused, rejected, hurt, right? We start to recover a sense of our own innocence, and it restores a sense of our own wonder, and it opens up our heart. And when I say inner child work, and I say we're going to speak the language of the body, there's two ways that we're speaking the language of the body. One is through visualization. So we're literally going to picture the child. We're going to picture the child, see it. And the other is through sensation, or we could say frequency or vibration, because we're going to be opening our heart centers, opening the energy of the heart. And of course, that's a language of the body. So let me make sure I see here. Okay. With our time left, I want to make sure I go where I want to go. Okay, cool. So there's two different ways. I mean, as I said, when you talk about inner child work, again, this is metaphor, this is theory, right? Inquire with yourself. But let me give you some of my theories of what's so helpful about what we're about to do. One of the big things that happens with trauma, there can be painful events in life, and then there's trauma. And why do some events register as trauma and some events get integrated or metabolized by a person? One of the aspects of it, there's a lot that goes into that conversation, but for today, one of the aspects is that often with trauma, what we'll see is that someone suffered their pain alone. Often we were unmet in the event, unmet in the experience. And even if someone knew, let's say, God forbid, some capital T trauma happened in your life and you told someone, but if they couldn't meet you there, if they couldn't make space for your emotions, if they couldn't comfort you and sit with you the way you needed, there's not a right or wrong here. It's just quite simply the way that the innocence in you needed, then it will register often as, I'm all alone in this. Alone creates quite an impression on a human. So one of the things I think happens is that when we go in and we meet our inner child, we start to leave a new memory. Instead of the only memory being, gosh, these really painful things happen in life and I'm all alone in it, or whatever the memory was. The world is scary, I'm not good, I'm bad, whatever the memory was. We have a new memory. We insert a new memory. The body doesn't work in linear time. It never did. That's why trauma can still affect us so many years later. The body doesn't work in linear time. Past, present, future all happen at once. So actually, when you give the body a new memory, here I am, I'm showing up, I'm vulnerable, I'm cracking, my heart hurts. But there's a presence here, the I am presence. And this I am presence that are both you, yes, PS, but this I am presence is meeting me with love, with care, with tenderness, with understanding. And a deep exhale is created in the body and a new memory becomes etched. Okay, so that's part of it. Now, going along the lines of new memories, coping strategies are memories. So if you normally cope by overeating, or you normally cope by yelling at someone, or you normally cope by self-criticism, or normally cope by hiding or shrinking or contracting, that's a memory. A stressor comes along, feels familiar. The body says, how will I cope? It pulls up a memory. It pulls up the coping strategy. Well, what if over and over again, we learn to meet ourselves with love and compassion? The body really likes to feel good. It's very effective. It'll become familiar to the nervous system. As it becomes familiar to the nervous system, your body has a new file it can pull up. How will I cope with this devastating thing? Oh, I know. I'll pull up self-compassion, and that can become a default mode. It's what we want, because right now our default modes are reactions created by past versions of ourselves or inherited experience. So it's another way. The crazy thing that I just want to include about this is really this is a mystical perspective, yes, but I do think no matter what angle we're looking at it from, we can change time. You add a new memory, the body doesn't know time. It's as if it happened. That's powerful, people. To me, anyway, that's very inspiring. Okay, last little bit of data, and then we're going to move into a practice. Sometimes when we turn within ourselves and we listen to the parts of us that have been hurt, and we're going to call it the voice of the inner child, when we listen, they may share with us something that happened. I was rejected. Those kids, let's say they were at school and they were bullied, and there was a bunch of kids that rejected them, that teased them, and their little sweet innocent heart broke. And here you are, and you're meeting them in the space of that, and you're talking to them, and you're saying, hey, what happened? What's the matter? And they say to you, I'll never have friends. No one will ever like me. I'm so unlikable. And you hear that. We don't debate our inner children. We don't proclaim them right or wrong. We honor their subjective experience completely and fully. Wow, that hurt. Wow, you're sad. Wow, I get it, felt that way. Wow, yes. But here's what we do. This is where honesty comes in, and the I am presence that we are, our consciousness, our wisdom self comes in. You might say, people really do like you though. Oh, I know how that hurt. Oh, I know that those people did that. But I like you, but you're so lovable. X, Y, and Z, look at that person, look how they love you. Or just, sometimes people do hard things because they're scared, but it doesn't mean they don't like you, and so on and so forth. Can you see the difference of what I'm saying here, everybody? What I'm trying to impress is that we will always agree and meet the child within us in the field of emotions of where they're at. We will honor them. But we do not have to agree with their perspective, because forget 10 steps up a mountain, a kid is only 1 step up a mountain sometimes. And their perspective, what I've noticed in speaking to people is your child's mind stored ideas in a very binary dualistic way. Either people love you or you're not safe. Either I'm good or I'm bad. Either, either I'm likable or, life will be horrible. Everything is very binary, okay? So they actually benefit, our inner parts benefit from an updated perspective, a higher vantage point. And what happens is that updated perspective, if it's accepted by us, if it's received by us, rolls forward in time. and we mature and we integrate. So does that make sense, everyone? Can I get a yes, no question in the chat? Okay. Okay. Good, important. We need this I am presence to meet ourselves. The I am presence is the part that's always there. You can call it awake awareness. You can call it the soul. You can call it the observing self. But what did I say earlier about I am presence? When we're doing inner child work, or when we're just meeting sensations in our body with pain, it doesn't have to be visualizations, sensations. We need to have enough I am presence not to co-resonate with the thoughts and feelings of the child. Someone has to be there. Okay, so let's say I'm sitting in terror, in absolute terror, and I want to meet myself with love. Well, if I'm also in terror, if there's no aspect of me that is not in terror, that shit doesn't work. And I want to say that to you in the most loving way, because capacity is everything. One thing I've seen is for those of us who go especially into freeze and dissociative states, it is too hard. From my experience, you may find differently, but from my experience, it is too hard to meet ourselves in a state of love when we're in dissociation or freeze. Okay, we can't do it. You've heard Brooke and I say over and over again, safety first. That's not the time to try to do this inner child practice. It's the time to just breathe, find the ground, orient in the room, all the things you guys probably talk about here. Take a bath, watch comedy, because if there's no presence there, there's no one meeting it. And actually, oftentimes we wind up just collapsing into the vortex of whatever that past-based emotion is. Okay, got it? Okay. Also, the I am presence is there to help evolve our inner children. We're not meant to stay in those perspectives forever. We're not meant to have our pain driving the bus. We want to drive the bus. I am consciousness. I am creator. I am soul. We want to drive the bus. That's where free will comes from. So we want to update these perspectives, and they'll roll forward in time.